our guest speaker today, Roilo Golez, or commonly known as Roy, who I've known for many, many years, almost ever since I arrived in the Philippines. Roy was a congressman, has been a congressman for 6 terms in the Congress, in the 9th, 10th, 11th, 13th, 14th and 15th Congress. And during his 6 terms, he has had 100% perfect attendance, which is absolutely unbelievable. Incredible record. In fact, the story is that once he was actually sick in hospital, but he still made it, somehow left the hospital and went to escape from the hospital just to keep up his 100% record. Roy is a master in business administration at the University of the Philippines, where he graduated class valedictorian, and a BS major in mathematics and operations analysis at the United States Naval Academy at Annapolis, USA. He also excelled in sports at the Naval Academy. He was boxing champion for 4 straight years. It could have been Manny Pacquiao, but he decided to go into the civil service. Roy has connections with shipping. He was actually Deputy Marina Administrator in 1978 to 1981. And I got to know Roy when he was working in Philippine National Line. In those days, Philippine National Line were chartering ships for grain imports to the Philippines. So that's when I first got to know Roy. Roy's familiar with the Elks Club. He's been a member here for 20 years, more than 20 years. And also I know Roy from the Rotary Club in Manila, where he's a long-term member. Roy is one of the defenders of the West Philippine Sea against China's aggression. He's chairman and lead convener of the movement and alliance to resist China's aggression, with the acronym MARCHA. As such, he is among the vanguard in the citizens' movement to fight for the Philippine sovereign rights in our exclusive economic zone in the face of China's incursions and illegal presence in the West Philippine Sea. So, very topical subject now. And also, I'd just like to add that he's one of the leading advocates for climate change. So it'll be interesting to see what Roy has to say about that, with Donald Trump as president and our new president here, of course. But the topic will be more about the West Philippine Sea situation. And without further ado, I hand over to Congressman Roy Golez.
Thank you so much, Dave. Good afternoon, everybody. The Propeller Club, and of course our special guests here, our future mariners, sailors, seamen. We're going to spread the goodwill of the Philippines all over the 7 seas. Thank you. Well, this afternoon I've been asked by Dave and the other organizers of this meeting to talk about the Philippines, China-US relations and the West Philippine Sea. And I'd like to start by giving an EEZ 101, Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone. I think many of you are familiar with this. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. This was in 1982, and the oceans along the sea. And this gave us a very sizable award of an exclusive economic zone whose size is 2.2 million square kilometers. It's quite big because we are an archipelago, and almost 3 times bigger than the EEZ of China, which is only 877,000 square kilometers. That would have been a happy news for us. Imagine that big amount of natural wealth. But there is China's 9-dash line, the big spoiler. And China's 9-dash line, these are the EEZ of China, the Philippines, the Blue Line, Brunei, Malaysia, then Vietnam. However, in 1947-48, China announced, when it was still under Chiang Kai-shek, announced this 9-dash line that claims almost 90% of the South China Sea. And then in 1949, when the communists took over China, they also adopted this claim. And under the Philippine Constitution 1987, the state is duty-bound to protect the nation's marine wealth in its archipelagic waters, territorial sea, and exclusive economic zone, and reserve its use and enjoyment exclusively to Filipino citizens. So that is the mandate of the Constitution. Well, I'd like to fast forward. I'm given a short time here. This is quite an extensive topic. But of course, the big spoiler here is that China aims to become the hegemon of probably not only the South China Sea, but even the entire world. And you can read about this in this very popular book. This became a bestseller by Michael Pillsbury, The 100-Year Marathon, China's Secret Strategy to Replace America as the global superpower, and the target is 2049, 100 years from the time they took over mainland China. And by the way, Michael Pillsbury happens to be one of the advisors of President Trump, even during the campaign. China is a big country, but it suffers from a very vulnerable geography. And you can see from this is the South China Sea, and the South China Sea is part of the bigger Indo-Pacific region, Indian Ocean, Western Pacific, all the way to the other side of the Pacific. The South China Sea links the Indian Ocean to the vast Pacific Ocean. It is a choke point, and the power that controls the South China Sea can control the economy of major economic powers like China, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and of course the Philippines. India must pass through the South China Sea to interact with China, Vietnam, the Philippines, Korea, Taiwan, and Japan. But then, as I said, those who are familiar with sea power strategy, especially sea power as defined by Alfred Thayer Mahan, China suffers from a very vulnerable geography. I've been saying this for many years already. It is surrounded in all directions and has a short coastline compared to its landmass. China's naval assets have very restricted maneuvering space, unlike those of India, Japan, Indonesia, even the Philippines, and of course the United States. Its sea lines of communications, or SLOCs, are very vulnerable, very easy to blockade or very easy to interdict. China, India, for example, can blockade China's trade passing through the Indian Ocean. A small but deadly naval force based in Singapore can paralyze China's seabound trade west of the South China Sea. Vietnamese submarines can wreak havoc on China's merchant marine and even the PLA Navy, etc., etc. To the east, towards Japan, Japan can block China's navy, because Japan is also a very powerful, has a very powerful navy and air force. And even the Philippines, with a modest investment in military upgrading, can interdict the Palawan Passage with a swarm of, let's say, small guided missile boats, an array of medium-range land-based mobile missiles hidden in the passages of Palawan, Mindoro, and Luzon. And here I'd like to talk about the strategic choke point dilemma, the Malacca dilemma of China. And here you can see that their oil trade has to pass through the Malacca. About 80% of China's crude oil imports transit the Straits of Malacca, with less than 2% transiting the Straits of Lombok in the Indonesian archipelago. And of course, these are China's maritime choke points. Here, they cannot break out into the Western Pacific because of Taiwan and the Philippines, and because of Japan and the Strait of Malacca. So those are China. But what is China's response to the choke points? They have China's string of pearls strategy. And what is that? It's a network of Chinese military and commercial facilities alliances from the Chinese mainland all the way to the port of Sudan. So the Chinese mainland, so they are trying to develop a string of pearls, a string of support countries and facilities going through Malacca. They're thinking of the Kral Canal through Thailand, and then Myanmar, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka here, and then all the way to Djibouti here, so that they can neutralize any possible blockade that could interdict the trade. So that's the string of pearls strategy. Now I'd like to talk to you about the first island chain and the second island chain. The first island chain is a line that comes from the Brunei area through Taiwan and the Philippines all the way to Japan, and then all the way to the Alaska area. What is the significance of this? Also the second island chain, which is from Japan all the way to the Marianas, the Guam area. The first island chain has its purpose in Chinese military doctrine. They view this as an area that it must secure to disable from American bases, aircraft and aircraft carrier groups, and they'd like to defend their area through the first island chain. Also, it is both a gate and a barrier, because this also prevents them from breaking out. They have a vast maritime power, but as I said, they're blockaded here. They cannot pass through there. So their objective is to break out of the first island chain towards the second island chain, and that will give them a better control of the area. And there is also the strategic triangle in the South China Sea. We studied this during a strategic study group in Japan about 2 years ago. And what is the strategic triangle? Their objective is to establish this strategic triangle 3 points. The first 2 points are already basically established. The first one is the Woody Island in the Paracels. They have a runway there already. The second point would be the cluster of artificial islands. I think you're very familiar with this. And there are 3 artificial islands with 3,000-meter runways that can accommodate practically all the aircraft inventory of China. This is Subi, near our Pag-asa Island. Fiery Cross Reef, they have a runway there also, and Mischief Reef, well within our exclusive economic zone. That would be the second point. And the third point is Scarborough Shoal. They control that now, but there is no construction yet. The worry is that they might try to construct there. So Scarborough Shoal is a key to the strategic triangle of China in the South China Sea. And of course, you're familiar with China's creeping invasion in the West Philippine Sea. In 1995, they started with this structure. They said that this was only temporary, but then 4 years later, they constructed the more permanent structure in Mischief Reef, which is almost as big as our municipal buildings in our municipalities. So they have 7 new structures here: Subiri, Fiery Cross, Quarteron, etc., artificial islands. And they conducted massive reclamation. Here's Mischief Reef. Mischief Reef started as only that, but now they reclaim this, and so this is now the status of Mischief Reef. They have quite and then they have the 3,000-meter runway, and that's inside. And this is